Way back in 2014, barely 4 months after the release of the first Five Nights at Freddy's, FNAF 1996 published the first demo of Five Nights at Treasure Island, one of FNAF's first and also most famous fan games. Taking inspiration in the gameplay of FNAF 2, the game gained fame due to the macabre visuals of famous Disney characters that were inspired by the creepypasta Abandoned by Disney. Through the years, the game received several versions, none of them being the full release. That is, until the talented Team Radiance took charge of the project, leading to its official release after 6 years. Hello to you who is watching this video. My name is Jay, and I'll talk about my experience playing Five Nights at Treasure Island in 2025. Just like Sister Location, this game starts with a lore bomb dialogue, which gives a little bit of context about why we're working on the literal worst place ever. There, we find out that we play as Jake, and the one calling us is Greg, from the Supernatural Studies Association, which is already a red flag, but whatever. It tells us that he and his team are investigating the Treasure Island, and that there's an open job position to watch over the abandoned island during the night, all alone, for 5 days. And we accept it. Before the night, we're presented a tip, but we can ignore it. Soon you understand why. Just as the other FNAF-inspired games, the night starts with a phone call, with Greg here explaining the mechanics and also dropping some lore. Also, props to Team Radiance for adding subtitles to the game, since the calls are such an important part of the game and most games do not even add subtitles. In a nutshell, Greg tells us that there are a lot of rumors that circle around Treasure Island, which is exactly why they are there, and although there are some questionable things they found, they can't talk about anything because the rat told them not to. Also, there's a figure roaming around the park, which they thought that it was a costume, but it isn't. And sometimes he can end up getting to your office. But fortunately for us, it isn't hard to get rid of him. Basically, this game has 3 core mechanics to stop the animatronics. I mean, I know they aren't animatronics, but I'll still call them like that. Anyways. While in the office, you can stand still by pressing Ctrl, or you can turn off the lights by pressing Shift, and obviously you can open the cameras. While in the cameras, you can press the space bar to shut off one of the cameras for a while. Mickey Mouse right here has very bad eyesight, so if he ends up roaming to your office, you need to shut off a camera. What that does is that it will disable the camera, obviously, but it will also make a lot of noise, which will attract the creature, which is kinda like FNAF 3 now that I think about it. In theory, it's an interesting mechanic because it sacrifices your vision to ward off a monster, but in later nights we find out that this is not the case. Well, the first night is basically no sweat at all because there is only one animatronic out there, which is Photonegative Mickey. The second night starts with a call from a different someone, which is something very unusual for these types of games. Lisa tells us some things that we already know, but aside from that, she also says that there's a new animatronic active, which is Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit. And also she tells us not to go to a part of the island called the Pirate's Cavern, but she doesn't elaborate why. Oswald appears right in front of you when he's about to attack, so to deal with him, just shut a camera. No biggie, everything goes smoothly. Yeah, what the phone lady didn't tell us is that another animatronic was active. Donald, or Disembodied as he's called in this game. Like the other two, he doesn't kill you, but he's super annoying and loud. The first time he appeared, I was really caught off guard. To get rid of him, just shut a camera. Again. Night 3's call has someone called Henry asking for help. He's one of SSA's interns, just like us, and he appears to be trapped in the Pirate's Caverns. That same Pirate's Caverns that Lisa told us not to go. Should've listened to her, hey? He asks for anyone that might be listening to help him because he knows a lot of things about the island. And then the call is cut short.
Please come get me out of here. I'm on the second floor.
Second floor? This place has more than one floor? The third night introduces two new threats, Goofy and Minnie, or Acephalus and Impurity. That's an odd name. Now that I think about it, it's kind of funny how that all these characters have these creepy names, but Oswald is just Oswald. Anyways, just like the others, before attacking you, those two appear in your office. Minnie appears at the left of your desk, but Goofy simply looms over you. For Impurity, you have to shut a camera. Once again. But Acephalus is the first character that requires you to stand still. Also, can we comment that for you to stand still you need to press a button instead of just not moving? Anyways, in this night, I also noticed a neat little detail. As your power gets lower, you can notice that the light bulb in your office will begin to flicker a lot more. That's not only a nice little detail, but it also helps us know if our power is running low. Also, I don't know if that was intentional, but when one of the animatronics enter your office, the light flickers. So when you're getting low in power, it gets a little bit more difficult to tell if anyone entered your office, especially if they don't have a sound cue. Wait, who got in my... Before night 4, we actually get something really unexpected. We get to explore Pirate's Caverns, the same one that we were told specifically not to go. That's a great sign. The segment reminds me a lot of a point-and-click adventure type game, like Ex Mortis, if you know what that is. You can click on a space to go there, and you also are equipped with a flashlight and a flash. It is a very interesting segment, although in a way, it's very easy. Your objective is to find a way into the second floor, where Henry said he was trapped. It's actually very simple. You only gotta explore the rooms until you find a key and open a door. The threat in this level is a distorted version of Mickey that occasionally appears in your room. He's called the Face. To get rid of him, you gotta use the flash, which uses some of your battery. To get it to recharge, you simply have to wait with your flashlight turned off. This isn't exactly a challenge, because Mocky Mouse here is more of an inconvenience, if anything else. Searching through the hallways, you will eventually find a room with a drawer. Opening the drawer, we find a key. After that, we have to backtrack and use an elevator to reach the second floor, where we go through the actual pirate caverns. And also, I thought the cavern part was a metaphor of sorts, but apparently it's not. And we also get our first proper scary part. This Nightmare Fuel 1970s Mickey costume is called The Undying. Along with its unnerving appearance, his sudden apparition and his creepy laugh can really catch players off guard. To get rid of him, you just gotta stand still. Just keep going forward and eventually you reach a staff-only door. Using your key, you unlock it. And that's the end of the segment. I think it's actually kind of a shame that this part is so simple. It's not really challenging, nor does it have any kind of complex puzzle. It's just find a key, open door, don't die. At least the final cutscene is pretty cool. Night 4 has no phone call, and luckily for us there's only one new threat, which is the face from the previous segment. Unlike in the pirate caverns, to deal with the face now, you just have to shut off the lights. I mean, I found another character. What? What? What is Pluto doing here? What should I do? I tried everything! Pluto is just an Easter egg. He doesn't really do anything, but he scared me the first time. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, but after each night, you get a little cutscene, which, well, they aren't very exciting, but they are here anyways. The first one just shows you trapped in some kind of cell, I assume inside the treasure island. The second one shows you trapped again, but this time a lot more foggy, and at the end you can see two glowing eyes. The third night doesn't have a cutscene because you played the Pirates Caverns segment, although here in the fourth night you get, well, the first cutscene that something actually happens. Scump scare? I knew it. Night 5 is pretty much like the last, just with the addition of the Undying, which again can be dealt by standing still. This night is the most challenging so far, but it's very much manageable. Speaking of which, now that we've gone through the 5 main nights, let's talk about my main problems with the gameplay. First of all, you have no real reason to access the cameras. I mean, you need them to attract the animatronics, but you don't need to watch them. In fact, since every single animatronic needs to enter your office before attacking, you can pretty much just wait for them to get into your room. Not only that, but that means that you also be staring at this for basically the entire game. But on the other hand, that means that you won't have to worry about battery. That alone makes the gameplay get pretty monotone and repetitive. And also, as I said, it's not that hard. Especially since 4 out of the 7 characters can be dealt in the same way. Finishing night 5, Greg calls us and makes us spend one more night there. Thanks, asshole. Night 6 get a pretty interesting shift in the gameplay. As usual, we're presented a tip at the beginning of the night. Just this time it's more cryptic, and also pretty worrisome. After the call, we find out what they mean by "they fused." This is Hourglass, a fusion of all the animatronics. He's the only active creature on night 6, making this kind of a 1v1 kind of final night. Just like with Ennard and with Fredbear. But what makes the night truly difficult is his mechanic. The tip said to pay attention to the starting position, and for some reason I thought that meant the pose that he does when he gets into your office. I mean, he kind of does make some similar poses, but it isn't what they meant by starting position. What they meant is the camera in which he starts. So basically, he will have the same mechanic from the animatronic that starts in that same camera. For example, if he starts in the same camera as Mickey, Oswald, Donald or Minnie, you have to shut a camera. If he starts in the same camera as the Undying or Goofy, you need to stand still. And for the face, you shut the lights. That's pretty simple, right? Well, I didn't know their starting positions. Unlike FNAF, the characters don't just stand on a stage until they activate. I mean, I can see Mickey, Donald and Oswald, but not the rest. They only appear when they are active, and I've already mentioned that I pretty much didn't use the cameras. Anyways, basically, mascot prep, camera. Storage, camera. Bathroom, stand still. Lockers, stand still. And roof, turn off the lights. With this knowledge, you can make a strategy to deal with him. I'll admit that I used a strategy that was on the game's wiki. Basically, you only have to check cameras 3 and 4. If he appears there, you have to shut a camera. If he doesn't, when he appears in your office, both shut the light and stand still at the same time. This night is super challenging, but I think that the developers could have been more clear about Hourglass's mechanic, but this is by far the best night of the game. After a couple of tries, I managed to beat night 6, and then we're brought back to Pirate's Caverns. You're supposed to go to the 3rd floor this time, but the curious thing is that both the Face and the Undying appeared to attack you. Why didn't they fuse in the Hourglass, like the rest? Well, getting to the 3rd floor, we find the door locked with the password, so now it's time to put the code 3497. We finally get to the final room of the game, an animation desk with lots of arts of Mickey and Oswald. And we have our final encounter with this Mickey silhouette, which according to the wiki is called Mother.
It's here, my children.
So, that was Five Nights at Treasure Island. I won't sugarcoat it, after finishing the game I couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. The game's mechanics didn't age well, especially if we compared with newer and more polished fan games. I mean, we can't ask for much since the original concept came from 2014. The visuals, on the other hand, are astounding, and I personally like a lot about how the game uses the lighting to make the characters even creepier, which, again, is a shame considering how little you use the cameras. But, despite all the flaws, Treasure Island was a mark in the history of FNAF fan games, and for Team Radiance itself, which learned a lot from their mistakes, which was shown on the sequel to this game.